streaming. What's up? How's everybody doing? Ultimate 30-minute fretboard crash course here, live in person. I came prepared. Got a couple things here that are going to be part of our crash course. I'll pull that out after and show that to you, what that is. So, one of the things that I've been thinking about, because I've been working with my son Dylan every night on guitar, is what are the ways that you actually should, that I can improve upon the way that I learned? I learned before YouTube tutorials. I learned before there were books. I learned before people used tablature frequently. I mean, I don't even know if there was tablature. I didn't use it. I read notes. But the most important thing that I had was this, a notebook, okay? Can be a line, this is a music notebook, any kind of notebook works. But a notebook and a pencil are your most important things, because the way that you retain stuff is by writing it down, the most important thing. Now, in addition to writing it down, you can also check out, shameless plug here, but my ultimate guitar bundle that's out with all three of my guitar courses, my Beato book, my Quick Lessons Pro, and my Arpeggio Masterclass. These are things that I wished I had, but instead I had to actually come up with them myself after I'd already learned this stuff. But my son Dylan is down here with me. Oh, by the way, that's $75, which is entirely too inexpensive. I'm just kidding. That's a great, great deal. So Dylan was down here the other night, and he comes down. He's got his phone and stuff, and he's like, "Yeah, are you ready to write on stuff or to learn stuff?" And he's got his phone. Well, what are you going to do with that? Well, I can just record it on here, take a video of it and everything. And I was like, just get a notebook and write it down, because you're going to retain it far, far better if you write it down. Oh, by the way, Aaron tells me to tell you that the sale ends tomorrow at midnight. Okay, the Ultimate Guitar Bundle. Writing things down is really how you put them into your memory banks forever. People always ask me, how do you remember all this stuff? And it's not just remembering how to play stuff, it's remembering artists, producers, who recorded what songs are on what record. I mean, there's all these things I talk about, whether it's classical composers, jazz musicians, rock musicians, music production, what microphones to use on things. Why? Because I have notebooks, hundreds of them around the studio here. And I keep track of the things that I practice. So one of the things that is really important to practice, and that I made a course about, is arpeggios. And why do I harp on arpeggios so much? Well, for a lot of things. Arpeggios are great for knowing the notes of chords, so there's a theory component of it. Arpeggios are great for being able to hear when you're hearing something in a linear fashion, or if you're hearing a chord, for knowing how to spell it out by ear. If I hear do da do do, so I just sang a C7 chord, okay? If I can sing a C7 chord, I can play a C7 chord. If I can play a C7 chord, I can sing it. It takes practice, but knowing where the notes are in the neck is probably the most important thing in understanding the fingerboard. And that is a thing that is very hard to teach people if they don't memorize these things, right? So one of the things I did with Dylan is I said, let's just start with this. I just made a little quick lesson. I haven't posted it yet about this. This is C7, C9, C11, C13, arpeggios. This isn't something that any of my guitar teachers taught me. This is something that I've figured out on my own. If I take a C7 chord, I'll do a C7 sus because it sounds cool. So I'm playing 1, 3, 5, flat 7, 1, 3, 5, flat 7. So now you can practice up and down. start at the top, go down, or... There's the arpeggio right there. Okay, so what did I just do there? In addition to knowing where the notes are and being able to play up and down the arpeggio, you got to be able to do something musical with it. And what you're going to want to do is take ideas, fragments of ideas, and combine them eventually. This is how you learn how to improvise. This is how you develop your ear for if you hear something, hearing a melody, and then you're like, oh, I recognize that string of notes. You recognize what they are relative to a chord, okay? So I took the C7 arpeggio, and after I got it under my fingers, and this is a really important thing, and this is what I stressed to Dylan. It's not enough just to play the arpeggio up and down. What you're not hearing, I play with distortion. I like distortion. I'm playing it where you're not hearing any extraneous noise. There's no open strings ringing. This is incredibly important. This is something that no one told me either. If you watch, but this hand is muting. This hand is also muting. This. My fingers are slightly angled, so when I play this note here, I am touching the A string. You guys see that? I'm actually touching it. I don't always do that. It depends on what I'm playing. But many times I am muting the strings that I'm not playing because I don't want any extraneous notes. And I learned this from being a record producer and constantly recording people that play sloppily. If I don't know how else I can say it nicer than that, but they have all these extraneous notes, and I would go as far as to tape strings off that they weren't playing if they were, if they were playing power chords or ninth chords like that. I would tape off those notes because you don't want to hear any extraneous notes. Okay, now let's talk about these arpeggios that I just did there. So. The C7, well, there's other arpeggios that I didn't know about when I started because nobody really taught like this. You can play a C9 arpeggio too. C9 would be this. So I'm playing 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Okay, the C9 arpeggio. The C9 arpeggio, this is something that I learned when I started learning chord forms.
The loop back's a little too loud.
Is it? I'll just turn it down.
Yeah.
Okay, so the C9 arpeggio, I'm playing this. That's an E minor 7 flat 5. It's this chord. Here's the note C. It's right there in that same position. It's built off E, so it's E, B flat, D, G. But I'm adding the C on the bass. So I'm playing C, and then I'm going up 1, flat 3. I'm going right up and down in E minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio and finishing off on the note C. That gives you this C9 sound. Great sound, right? So I wish somebody had told me this when I was just beginning, because that is a great C9 sound. Let me try this here, Tom. Maybe see if this is okay too. How's that sound? Is that better? I'll turn loop back down just a little bit. Okay, so what I did there was a C11 arpeggio. The C11 arpeggio is basically a combination of two arpeggios again. So here's my C11. I'm going to hold these up. Take a screenshot of this. Just either when the video's done. Let me hold it still. Or now. These are the kind of things that you'll find in my Arpeggio Masterclass. Okay? So what I've done here is I took two arpeggios and put them together. So if I go with my C7 chord again, I played... I could do it that way too. I actually played 1, 5, flat 7, then up to the 9 there. And right there's a G minor 7 arpeggio. But I can add in the third down here. Beautiful sound. So what I did there is I did the descending one in thirds. Now you'll notice there's no extraneous notes there when I play it. Very clean, nothing buzzing, let's see if I can do it with extraneous notes. That's really hard to do. I'm muting all of this with the palm of my hand on the string. So I'm just keeping the palm of my hand there when I'm picking, right? That's a very common thing to do. Keep the wrist relaxed and play like that. So that is a C11, right? Or C sus arpeggio. Now you can actually go up it and you can add or I think it's a cool sound. I did a little C sus 4. I'm sorry, C add 9 arpeggio. Beautiful sound there, though. Now the next one is the C13. Basically what I'm doing with the C13 arpeggio is I am playing I'm playing the notes of basically, I'm playing a B flat major 7 arpeggio, but I'm starting on that low C. And that B flat major 7 gives you that 13 sound. To me, that's just a beautiful, beautiful sound. So that B flat major 7. So if I take B flat major 7, if I take them all over C, and I'm just thinking C7. Like that one, Tom? Tom's over here listening. Then I just went down a little Mixolydian run there. Kind of a cool little pattern I'd like to play there. So these kind of things, I just know these scale shapes all over the neck. The scales and arpeggios are completely related. Now, how do you learn this stuff? You get the best way to do this honestly, is to get my 3 courses. I think if you get them and you go through them, the my Ultimate Guitar Bundle, for $75, you get my Quick Lessons Pro, which has like more lines and concepts, and it shows like I'll give you an example one in a second here. My Arpeggio Masterclass is basically a how-to on to play these arpeggios, how to learn them up and down the fingerboard, what are the correct fingerings, easiest fingerings to play, and how to learn them cleanly, and how do you learn them, like the progression of how to learn them. And then my beginner guitar course is the other thing that's part of this. My beginner guitar course, if you don't play it all and you want to just learn how to play along with songs, things like that, this is a great way to get started. You know, one builds upon the other, upon the next. But let me talk about this Quick Lessons Pro. So what I did, I had this series that I called Quick Lessons, and I would take things. Let's say I took a chord like that's a B sus chord. So I'm doing a what I call arpeggio fragments. This would be one of the concepts I teach. That's a B sus2. That's an A major 7. Then I'm using all little chord fragments. So I got and that would build lines off that, right? So all these little techniques that I'm using in there, I'm using all these different arpeggios combined. But all the lines kind of resolve within each other. And now I use these little, what I call hammer-ons from nowhere. So that would be a quick lesson where something that I explained in 30 seconds on Instagram or YouTube Shorts or TikTok, but then there's a full lesson on how these concepts work together, kind of like we're doing now, right? So the thing is, though, if you learn a concept like this, if you don't write it down, it's like, okay, what's he mean by these chord fragments? Like, how's he even coming up with melodies and things like that based off this? Okay, so I take a scale. I say, okay, I'm going to take a scale that goes over a B7 chord. The scale over B7, just B mixolydian or E major. Okay, so I take that and I start taking the chords out of it. Well, I pick some random chords that sound cool. I picked this one first. I love that sound. So I took. I love that sound. I just talked about that in C7. This is just down a half step. That's A major 7th arpeggio there. And I'm using these different fragments at intervals of 6. So that's all. If I play that B7 chord again, and I start. I love that sound. I used one chromatic note in there. I'm basically using no chromaticism at all to play over these things. If I'm playing a blues, I'm going to use a different scale there. If I'm playing blues, I'm going to use the either minor or major pentatonic scale or minor or major blues scale over this chord. There's your minor pentatonic scale that you would hear in rock music, right? Or now that is the major blues scale. The major blues scale is if you so all of these different ideas, right, are things that are worked on over time. In my case, these are worked on over years. But they're over years by me taking solos that I've learned and taking little bits out of them, right? If I think about okay, that's Stairway to Heaven, but up a whole step. If I got I basically altered that last note to fit in that key. That's the first lick in the Stairway to Heaven solo. Now I can quote 100 solos and the licks out of them and transpose them all to the key of B to work on a blues in B, or a blues in A, or blues in D, or blues in G, or blues in whatever key. It doesn't matter. This is from developing this vocabulary, because learning how to play stuff is basically like learning a language. And the parts of the language, you know, if you think about your things that make up the syntax of it, right? The scales and arpeggios. If I'm going to play in the key of G, I need to know where all the notes are in the key of G. And then if I want to play over a particular chord in the key of G, I need to know where all the notes are, and I need to know where the arpeggios are for those chords. If I'm playing on a G chord, I can play it. I can play G major scale, play G Lydian scale, I can play G mixed Lydian scale. But let's say I'm just in the key of G major. Okay, so that's a scale that I can improvise over. But if I want to get more specific, I'm going to learn the arpeggios. I can learn. I can use spread triads. Now those really teach you your neck. And this is the stuff that I wish that I had learned. Is this stuff early on, because there were no examples other than when I started in the mid 70s, Pat Metheny, Bright Size Life. That was one of the records where I heard spread triads. He's one of the first people, he's one of the first guitarists that I heard do spread triads. And Alan Holdsworth would do them in some of his chords, but I didn't really hear Holdsworth until I heard Jean-Luc Ponty, Enigmatic Ocean, and but I would hear voicings like this where he'd use a spread triad. That's a D major spread triad with a B flat in the bass. But Pat would do that same chord voicing as well. But when I've heard those things, that's a tune right off Metheny's Bright Size Life. Is that Sarabahorn? What song is that? You guys know that. On that record, I learned things. That's what is it? What is that tune? Missouri Uncompromised, is that it? So I would take these things. I would hear Pat play on that record. Oh, that's a cool thing. How do I develop that idea? And I start learning these things. Like, what kind of arpeggio is that even? I'd never even heard. I didn't hear people play. I hear that. I'm like, I've never heard anybody play that. That's a really weird. And then I start learning these suspended arpeggios all over the fingerboard. Nobody talked about that. You heard like sus chords like this? Yes, you heard that. But nobody, yes, I would hear people play licks like that and stuff, but I didn't hear people play. I learned that stuff from basically exploring when I heard Pat Metheny play. I said, wow, where's the next note in that arpeggio? And I figured out, it's like, this stuff is really hard to play. You think that if you take this, you can slow this video down to half speed or 0.75 and try to play that. These things are really tricky to finger. All these are in my Arpeggio Masterclass too. Is all these suspended arpeggios, add 4 arpeggios, things like that. And these will teach you where the notes are. That's the thing, is like, how do you know and learn the fingerboard? So I would do stuff like this, right? So I'd take my little notebook and I'd be like, okay, what did I practice today? Well, let's see here. What do we do here in this video? Well, I talked about dominant 7th arpeggios, arps. But let's get more specific. C7, C9, C11, C13. And if I didn't know what that meant, I would get this. And I write them down on a chord grid like this, right? Once again, you can screenshot this. I would take that right off the video and I write it down. Or maybe I'd make a little chord diagram like this. I used to do this all the time. Use this for scales, right? If I said, okay, what's a Mixolydian scale? I used to write this for my students all the time. So right there, see a little thing there, a little tiny thing? That's that. I did 6 lines across, and I'm writing that Mixolydian scale right there. And I might even go like this and extend it down, each of these, and add some extra ones if I need it. And the stuff is right there under it. So I'd write that C7th arpeggio, that C9 arpeggio, and I have them all neatly arranged in my notebook. If you get my courses, like I said, $75 for the 3 courses, and you open up Quick Lessons Pro, any of these things, you don't just take the PDF that's with it. Yes, it's great. You can learn this stuff. But then you take your pen out and you write on your paper the things that you learned, how to jog your memory for this stuff, right? Like if you need to add fingerings to stuff, you print it out and you say, well, Rick's fingering is awkward for me. I think I have a better fingering for it. Great, write it in. I would write in every single fingering for stuff. Like, what is the finger order? I don't like to do bars if I don't have to do them, right? I don't like to bar across strings. I do with my index finger. So right there, it's easy to bar with that finger. You're always playing bar chords, right? But other fingers are not as easy to bar with. When I'm sitting next to Frank Gambale and Frank's playing, Frank can bar with any finger, better than anyone. Frank is amazing. He's got huge fingers, and it's easy for him to do it. But when I played this suspended arpeggio, so here, as I'm coming down, right there, I play it like these are chords. So I went 1, 4, 3. Now you could play. do that. It's just not clean to me, you know. That to me is just sounds so. I want to. I think like I'm a piano player, and I like to be able to do what I call our reliable fingerings on things, right? If I'm going to play like an E minor chord, right? Well, what fingering? I could have used E minor like this. Could have done that, but what did I do? I did a simple one. Now that's not good if you're trying to play something fast. It's not that bad. I did. It's obviously. Now you see, I'm doing these fingerings all over the neck there. Here, there, wherever you need to do this stuff, wherever you need to learn it, you know. Once again, detailed notes of this stuff. Every day you practice, write out everything that you practice. There's no, when you have a notebook full of this stuff, it's way easier than going back and saying, okay, well, what did I practice yesterday? I don't even remember. Well, no, you just take out your notebook. You're like, oh, this is what I practiced yesterday. So I'm going to practice all of this. And today I'm going to go to a fresh page. I'm going to work on the next stuff that I'm going to practice. And then I'm going to practice both of those. Then I'm going to go to the next page, and I'm going to practice all that. Okay? I'm going to learn tunes. I'm going to learn how to play music with this stuff. Because ultimately, none of this stuff means anything if you can't make music with it. That's the ultimate goal. But the mechanics of it are so important that I took the time and I made multiple courses. I don't just have the guitar bundle, which is what we're talking about today, the 3 courses, beginner guitar, the Quick Lessons Pro, and the Arpeggio course. I have my Beato book. I've got my ear training course to go with these things that you can purchase as well. And what you want to do is you want to be incorporating all these things. Take some time for ear training. Don't rely on tutorials all the time. Work on your ear so you can recognize stuff. I just did this Holdsworth video where I learned non-brewed condiment. And it's extremely difficult to play. But there was one part in the video where I played the same lick in 3 different positions. I said, this is where it's comfortable for me. This is where it might be played. This is where I think Holdsworth played it. If you go back and watch that video, it was a week and a half ago or so. Check out that video because I show you, I demonstrate how you can play the same thing in multiple places. This is really how you know that you know your instrument. Okay, so if I'm playing a G major scale, I can play it there. If I play it here, if I play here, if I play here. Doesn't matter. You should be able to play it on any string, any combination of any string, be able to kind of cascade through this stuff, play the arpeggios. Anywhere on the neck, be able to play this stuff. So that's an add 9 arpeggio. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments after the video. You can leave it in the comments here, but I would say once the video is over, leave it in the comments. And don't forget, you can always slow the videos down. I think people forget that because YouTubers don't tell them. YouTube goes down to 0.5, I think, half speed. So go to 0.25. You hear, Tom? It goes to 0.25, so you can see these things. I try to line my guitar up really clearly where it's nicely lit, so you can see these things, right? Sometimes it's not easy, which is why I give you this and I tell you to screenshot it, right? These are the some of the things we used in today's lesson. Take advantage of them, you know? That's why I do these. The sale ends tomorrow at midnight. You guys are the best. Really. I got a lot of videos finished. Too many videos. I try not to release too many things at once. I've got my 2 channels. I don't like to flood people with stuff because there's videos that some people haven't gotten to. Curious to know your thoughts on that too. I had a Steve Lukather video I was going to release today, a new interview I did with Luke. But I didn't because there's things to catch up on, like this. You guys are the best. Have a great rest of your week. Talk to you later. Thanks for the super chat. It wasn't me. Really appreciate it. We'll see you guys.